Hello, everybody. This is Gerald Salenti, and it's Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. And we have with us again the guy, a man of men, who really cares about America and what the country was founded upon and how we've lost it. And he has an article, it's Judge Andrew Napolitano. There's nobody, as I say, that put up against anybody when it comes to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and that Judge Napolitano knows inside out, upside down, and how we're losing it inside out and upside down. Judge, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Gerald. Always a pleasure, my dear friend.
You know, you have an article coming out tomorrow, and it's about this guy who has sells milk, Amish Miller. And you talk about him and how the state troopers and investigators got a search warrant. The guy sells milk that, it's not, it's unadulterated and it's grass fed. He's been doing it for 40 years. He doesn't sell it, but friends of his buy it from him. And the guy's in trouble for it. And you make this point because it's really about not only that they tell us what we put in our body, you got to buy what they tell you to take, but also how we're losing our rights and what's happening to this guy.
So Amos Miller is an Amish farmer not far from where I live, but on the other side of the Delaware River in Pennsylvania. And the state police raided his farm and stole all of his farm products because of a search warrant authorizing them to do so. Now, a search warrant can only be based on probable cause of crime. This search warrant was based on the fact that someone in the state of New York got sick on a milk product and thought that it came from Amos's farm. He has never been sued, never been charged, never been held liable in any way for harming anyone. But here's a guy who sells milk that is unpasteurized and unadulterated, contrary to what the state of Pennsylvania wants. He doesn't sell it to the public. He only sells it to members of his club who state in writing, I know what I'm buying, and this is what I want, and this is all that I want to put in my body and my children's body. So this is another example of the nanny staters using the criminal process. It's a criminal proceeding because they don't like what he sells and what people choose to put in their own bodies, using the criminal process to tell us how to live. I go into the history of the Declaration of Independence and the exuberation at freedom from Great Britain in 1783, and then say, well, where did all that freedom go? It's gone. It's gone. We have less freedom today than the colonists did who fought a revolution against the king. Taxation without representation is tyranny. Kind of a canard. They really didn't want representation in the British Parliament. They wanted to be away from, free of the British Parliament. But the taxes over which they revolted, none of them exceeded 3%. Today, of course, you know what we pay. In the Northeast, could be upwards of 50 to 58 or 59%. So half your time is spent working for the government, and 3% was enough to trigger a revolution. So this infuriated me. This nanny state do-gooder will tell you what to put into your body. We know what's better for you than you know for yourself attitude. And what really infuriated me was the use of the criminal process to enforce this. Instead of sending him a letter saying, we think that you're not selling safe products, and they can have a debate over that. Boom, the FBI, not the FBI, the state police show up, knock on the door, walk in, steal everything he has, and then put a sign up saying, do not enter, do not buy anything from this place. It's unsafe and it's unhealthy. Well, the hell are the police to say that? So that's what motivated me to write the column.
What happened to this guy? How did it end up?
Nothing so far. I don't know what legal procedures, if any, have followed this. The events that I just described took place last Thursday. So that's 7 days ago.
So he lost everything. They have everything. They stole all his stuff.
Correct. I mean, he can remake it. He's still got the cows. but it's an expensive process to remake it. They stole cream, they stole sour cream, they stole eggnog, they stole milk. Stole, not looking for a sample of, but taking everything he has.
And it's a joke. I mean, look at all the products, all the crap in all these products that are killing people, all these artificial thises and that's, and they bust this guy's chops for nothing.
Right.
By the way, how dare anybody drink a natural product? It has to be pasteurized. I mean, who can make up this crap? A bunch of crap heads. You talk about the Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You never hear that word happiness again.
No, you have said this for many years. Happiness is a bad word. The government doesn't want you to be happy.
And when you read George Washington's farewell address, he mentions that a number of times, that the purpose of the America, the Republic, and that happiness is a key. It's an essential of it. And you go on in your article over here, and you said that historians have estimated from reading letters, pamphlets, sermons, essays, newspapers, editorials, and speeches from an era that only about 1/3 of the colonists favored using force to secede. But that 1/3 whipped the wind of change.
And the winds of freedom. This is another one of your favorite lines about a determined and passionate and freedom-loving minority. The late Professor Bernard Balin at Harvard did this study, and it was about 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. It's about 1/3 wanted to stay as loyalists, 1/3 wanted to secede. Hard to believe 1/3 didn't care. These weren't scientific polls. These are estimates based upon what people said. Women didn't speak. African Americans didn't speak. A lot of laborers didn't speak. So it's a small portion of the society from which they extracted these rough proportions. But it is generally accepted that about 1/3 led the revolution for everybody, and everybody benefited. Now, not the loyalists whose lands were confiscated, but everybody who saw what was happening and appreciated the freedom benefited from the revolution. But in 1783, we were free. Then, of course, the United States of America and the federal government came along, and then the states began mimicking the federal government. What the state of Pennsylvania did to this farmer is the same thing that the feds do all the time. The feds usually aren't concerned with milk, but if they want to put you out of business, they know how to do it.
It is so sad that this is going on, because it's the same 1/3 today. It's only a few people know what's going on. The rest follow what the government is telling them to do, or else they don't care. You look what happened with the COVID war. We'll tell you what to do. You're going to obey, and no jab, no job.
Right.
No jab, no job.
Right.
Look,
that happened to many, many, many people, many good people. Some of them eventually got their jobs back, and some judges ordered, in the case of the governments to pay them, like New York City police, the salary they lost. But a lot of them had their careers destroyed because they didn't take the chemicals that the government ordered them to take. Yeah. Violation of the Nuremberg conventions, of course, forcing people to take experimental drugs against their will.
But again, nothing has changed. I'm saying, there were I had peace rallies here, how hated I was when everything was locked down, and I had a peace and freedom rally. I mean, they made this stuff up, but the majority keeps following. Again, when little Georgie Bush, we're going to get that guy Osama bin Laden, dead or alive, and launch the Afghan war, over 80% of the people followed.
Correct.
So nothing has changed, and it's only getting much worse.
Our friend.
I'm sorry, what?
No, you said nothing has changed. I was thinking of that funny one-liner by our friend Tom Woods. No matter who you vote for, you end up with John McCain.
Yeah.
He could look like Barack Obama and act like George Bush and sound like Donald Trump, but he's still John McCain. He still wants to kill people.
And you're talking about what the police did and enforcing what they've done. Your friend over there in New York, again, forcing people what to do. I still have this article. This is from August 24th, 2021, the height of the COVID war. 2 judges tell defendants to be vaccinated. The defendant was charged with a number of minor crimes, including drug possession and shoplifting. He was prepared to plead guilty, and the prosecutors agreed. But a Bronx judge approving the deal added his own unusual condition. The defendant had to get a COVID-19 vaccine.
It's just terrible.
Judge Rakoff, or probably Jerkoff, argued that it fell to him to determine whether a person seeking release represented a danger to the community. The unvaccinated, he wrote, did pose such a danger, giving their enhanced risk of infecting other innocent people and even potentially causing their deaths. All right.
He is a dear friend of mine. We obviously disagree on many things. We have debated this loud and long with each other. He's not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change his. But I do remember that. I remember when it happened. I remember telling you about it. I remember you taunting me over the fact that he's my friend.
Well,
what are you going to do? Roger Ailes used to say, Judge, you got to have friends on the other side of the aisle.
What I'm saying here is this is dictatorial.
Yes.
It's no different than what those scum did to that farmer. Who is he to say? Who is he to say that enhanced risk of infecting other innocent people and even potentially causing their death? A total lie. A total made-up piece of crap. But I'm mentioning this because this is how low our country has fallen.
Correct.
In so many different ways.
This is a life-tenured federal judge, symbolic or symptomatic of much of the judiciary and much of the government apparatus that bought the nonsense from Fauci and the others, which is why it was so overwhelming and so many people were harmed. It was such a tidal wave of people following the government, and the government's arguments were essentially nonsense. In fact, they were counterproductive and harmful.
Yep. All the facts are there, total BS. But I'm mentioning this because of the article that you've written and how we've lost our freedom. The word that, you have this other line over here. The word also went forth to the king, whom the British people believed was divinely chosen to rule over them.
I think they still believe that, which is crazy, but they do.
And that they call him His Majesty.
Right.
His Majesty. They're a murderous crime family.
Yes.
The sun never sets on the British Empire. Yeah, there we go. Here, king. Here, boy. No, I'm royal. And that's what's going on here. And we're losing our freedom, Judge. And it's going to get worse. And, there's nothing, my podcast last night, I read the headlines on CNN, Yahoo, and Drudge. CNN, Mississippi governor in second inauguration says he wants young people to stop leaving the state. CNN. Takeaways from the appeals court hearing on Donald Trump's immunity claim. Drudge. Violent political threats surge as 24 begins. Not one word about the Israel genocidal war against Gaza. Before we went on today, I looked at all the major media online. Again, those three sites, not one peep about what's going on there.
Have we become acclimated to genocide so that it no longer shocks and terrifies? Terrible.
Well, that guy Kirby, with that mouthpiece, he said this isn't genocide.
Kirby's a joke. Kirby's Baghdad Bob, if you remember that guy. From I don't know if he was real or not. The Americans will choke to death in their own blood. I don't know if the guy was a comedian or not, but there he was.
Yeah. So what do you think's going to happen with this Israel war?
I think it's going to expand, and they're going to try some sort of a false flag, some sort of an attack on American troops to drag the United States into it. And Joe Biden will welcome that because his belief is that he can only get reelected if he runs as a wartime president. So they'll concoct a war. I think they were going to do that in Ukraine, but it's too little, too late. Ukraine is lost, even though Mike Johnson wants to send them another and Joe Biden wants to send, and Chuck Schumer want to send them another $68 billion. But the war in Israel is real and is likely to expand, and the Americans are likely to get involved.
You know, everyone listening, you really need to see Judge Napolitano's podcasts. You go to Judging Freedom, and you're going to have on later today Max Blumenthal. You know, I think Max Blumenthal, he must be anti-Jewish and an anti-Semite with a name like that, because he's against what's going on over there.
It's amazing what they accuse him of. And of course, he sees right through all of it. I mean, Max lived in Israel for 3 years while he was doing research on his own book. There are very few Americans who know as much about Israel as Max. And every week, fresh new reportings about the excesses of the Netanyahu government. And most of this is not good news. Even if Netanyahu is on his way out, whoever or whatever replaces him will be of the same mindset.
Yep. And that's what I was saying before, you know, when all this happened, they said, oh, Netanyahu, they're going to get rid of Netanyahu. I said, it doesn't make any difference.
Right.
It's a crime syndicate in there. And again, not my language, but the mainstream media, his extreme right-wing government.
You know, one of my dearest friends from college, we've been friends for 55 years, who is Jewish, a lawyer, entrepreneur, successful, wonderful guy, got mad at me for referring to Gaza as an open-air concentration camp until I pointed out to him that phrase was coined by an Israeli major general who was in charge of the occupying forces in Gaza. An Israeli major general said, well, it's an open-air concentration camp. That's not an anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish comment. That is a statement of opinion, well-grounded in fact.
Judge, what do you suggest people do? How can we change this?
Man, it requires a sea change in people's thinking. The Israeli lobby has the Congress lock, stock, and barrel. There are even a few libertarian Republicans that are on that list. Go to AIPAC's website and go to the part where you want to donate to American public officials. You will see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of American public officials there. This is a lobbying entity for a foreign government that is not required to register with the Department of Justice, just as every other person who lobbies the U.S. government for a foreign government is required to lobby. And if you don't, you get prosecuted, not charged civilly, but prosecuted. It it will take a sea change in people's thinkings. They have their hands on the throats of the Republicans and the Democrats in both houses of Congress, and this particular president, and probably the next president, Trump, who has an instinct to pull back troops, to get out of NATO, still wants to spend more on defense and wants to give Israel whatever it wants. So he, in this respect, he's the same as Biden, just a little bit more articulate about it.
You know, I agree with you, by the way. You know, this is going to continue to expand, and there'll be either a false flag or something will happen to get us involved in there. And World War III has begun. And if we don't stop it, it's going to be annihilation. And I'm really concerned about it. There's our cover of this week's magazine. And
well, you're playing with fire with people who have nuclear weapons. And in the case of Israel, many of them, the hard right people and Netanyahu's cabinet, the ones he was complaining about, that if they leave, I don't have a coalition. They are religious fanatics, so there's really no reasoning with them. These are people who Phil Giraldi's going to be on today also, and he's going to talk about the case of South Africa versus Israel, which is going to be tried starting tomorrow. And the complaint in that case, which is 84 pages long, has copious comments from members of the cabinet, like the Palestinians are subhuman.
Yep.
We should turn Palestine into, or we should turn the Gaza Strip into a soccer field. They should be buried alive. I mean, you talk about intent. The intent to commit genocide is right there.
And they call them animals too.
Correct.
Yep.
So this is not a circumstantial evidence case. There is profound evidence. I mean, I don't know what the Israeli defense will consist of. The Israeli government said this is a blood libel. All right. Blood libel goes back to conspiracy theories about Catholic priests using the blood of Jewish boys to mix it with the wine that was consecrated at Mass. It was a horrible thing. It never happened. It was entirely made up. It's a 500-year-old event. That's what they compared this allegation to. The allegation is true. It is true what they said about the Palestinians. It is true that they are trying to exterminate them. It is true that that is a violation of the Treaty on Genocide and the United Nations Charter. We'll see what this court says. It's an odd court. There are 13 judges. The plaintiff, South Africa, gets to add a judge. The defendant, the Israelis, get to add a judge. So they both added their judges. There'll be 15 judges who will start to hear the case tomorrow. There's no testimony. It's just the oral argument of lawyers. The first thing they have to decide is if they have jurisdiction. If they have jurisdiction, they're going to rule against Israel. No question about it.
But again, we have to do something to stop this. And everybody, please do what you can to bring peace on earth. United we stand, divided we die. And of course, if you want to donate to Occupy Peace, we very much appreciate it. Could you imagine if these billionaires donated to Occupy Peace?
Oh.
Not a
maybe
penny.
Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe one of them will show up at your next rally.
Yeah. Judge, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being on. And remember, everybody, go to Judging Freedom. You see what he's doing, the people he has on, the information he's putting out there. It's solid, it's true, and it's the true American spirit. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Gerald. All the best to you, my friend.